This time on MTV.
She would make a bologna sandwich with mustard and cottage cheese on it.
Oh!
Don't knock it till you rock it.
That explains the odor.
These are all things that people always go through. The story of David and Bathsheba.
2 Samuel chapter 11, the time when kings go out to war. David stayed home. He
Yeah.
was not where he was supposed to be, doing what he was supposed to be doing. Inny or Outty? Caterpillar.
I think it's silly enough to be in there.
Over our dead body.
Let's say out. Okay.
It is...
Mike the Baptist. Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. It is April.
Unbelievable.
Is that
That's
not crazy? I mean, it's just like a month ago it was March or something. Anyway, welcome to Mike the Baptist. I'm Mike. I'll be the Baptist the whole way through. No, I'm not necessarily just a Baptist, just so you know. If you're just tuning in for the first time, maybe. It's not, it's a play on John the Baptist, etc., etc. Anyway, H.D. Jones is here.
Hey, good to be here today.
Actually, he's a pastor of my church, and he still comes and does this.
I'm more than a Baptist too, I guess.
I guess so. We'll talk about that. And Jason Riccardi is back. Jason hadn't been here in a while.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
But we weren't here for a while.
Yeah.
We're back. We've been anxious for you to get back because you're full of so much information.
That's a nice way of saying that.
I'm full of something, right?
Yeah. And everybody will see shortly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're glad you're joining us too. Want to say hi to our new subscribers. Say hi to the new subscribers.
Hey.
We're getting a little more of those all the time. We've been on a bit of a push for that.
Nice.
And so we want to tell you hi, stick with us. And
It doesn't get any better.
It doesn't get any better, but it doesn't get too much worse.
But it might actually just make you feel good about yourself.
Right.
Possibly, and it'll give you something to do for a few minutes. But anyway, something I want to encourage everybody to do. I'm learning more about like YouTube algorithms and what have you in order to grow a program. It's important that you comment. If you're watching this program on YouTube, make a comment. Start a conversation because algorithms look for that.
Make nice comments.
Well, nice comments.
Yeah.
I had to delete a couple
Yeah.
already, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Wait,
if
were
you
they
think
about
it-
me?
No.
Okay, cool.
Were they just like there's been a rash of like really inappropriate stuff being posted? Was it in that vein?
It wasn't inappropriate. It's just how in every subject there are radical people.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're dealing in a religious theme here, so
People are fun.
Yeah, I got some really fun radical stuff. But anyway, make a comment, start a little conversation there, and we're liable to answer you. Send us an email, comments@mikethebaptist.com. We're going to move into a Bible study shortly. And what's that going to be about today, gentlemen? Briefly. Very briefly. What scriptures are we looking at?
David and Bathsheba.
Okay. All right. Everybody knows that story, I think.
Long story.
Yeah.
Or an old story about a guy sleeping with a woman he shouldn't be sleeping with.
Stick around for that. That's coming up shortly. And then, of course, we'll play Inny or Outty
Subscribers.
at the end of the program. Welcome to you new subscribers. Welcome to Mike the Baptist. And before we do anything else, we're going to move into a little front porch visit. We like to do this because it's like in the old days, you visit on the front porch. Imagine that's what we're doing here. You'll hear a rocking chair and a screen door right about now, and just put yourself out there. Today on the front porch, I would like for us to talk about odd or different foods that we like. I'm talking about the kind of thing like when you go to a gathering or something.
Are you going to talk about chicken loaf?
No.
Okay.
No. Chicken loaf is not really odd where I'm from.
Okay.
Okay, but
Where you used to be from. Like you live here now.
I've actually lived in Tennessee longer than I lived in Arkansas. But I still like chicken loaf, but I'm not going to go there today. I'm talking about the foods like, what I'm talking about. Like if you put two things together and people say, what in the world are you thinking? That's what I'm looking for here. So give me a brief something, H.D. Jones, pastor of a church that is maybe looks a little odd.
Growing up on the farm, we had weird foods. Like my granddad wanted me to eat scrambled pig's brains. Was not doing that. Beef liver, wasn't doing that. But I had an older cousin that I really looked up to, and she would make a bologna sandwich with mustard and cottage cheese on it. And I tried it, and it really was not that bad. Yeah. So
Mustard
and cottage cheese.
That's what
on
he
a bologna
said.
sandwich. Yeah.
On a bologna sandwich.
On a bologna, yeah. It really wasn't that bad.
It kind of hurts in a way, but it's confusing.
It's got quite a texture.
And that was who?
One of my cousins. Yeah.
Wow. Is that it?
That's it.
That's really all you need
Yeah.
because that is so odd.
We can just end the segment now because I don't think anybody's going to top that.
That went into my head and got confusing. If that tells you anything, I'm not going to try that, but it's interesting. I've never heard of that one. Say it again. Bologna sandwich.
Yep. White bread, bologna, mustard, and cottage cheese.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Wow. And you ate it?
I did.
Have you ate it since?
Yeah, not recently, but yeah. It was something. It was something.
You know what? Somebody's about to bring you now.
Yeah.
Scrambled pig brain?
Yeah, well, that's awful. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Jason?
Look, I usually live by the credo of don't knock it till you rock it.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to try to do a lot of crazy things. I mean, we've talked about it. I've eaten a chocolate-covered tarantula. It's not something I would be like, yeah, let's do that. It sounds good. But I've done weird stuff. But as far as like the things that I eat that other people look at as kind of weird, I guess the closest thing, my kids would probably tell you something different, but the closest thing I come to is, man, I like peanut butter a lot. And so you get peanut butter passion ice cream and you throw some peanut butter on top of that. Oh man, it's good. I like peanut butter a lot, so I'll throw that in there. Yeah. I drink a protein shake a lot of mornings, and I'll throw some protein or some peanut butter in there. Yeah, it's real good. Yeah, that's about the weirdest that I do on a regular basis.
That explains the odor. No, I'm just kidding.
You know, when I go to a Chinese restaurant or something like that, I'll eat calamari, and it's just like.
It's squid
or octopus.
It's like cutting a piece of a inner tube.
Yeah,
and trying to chew it up.
They really are rubbery, man. Yeah. You just keep chewing and it never stops.
Between that and coconut, those two things drive me nuts because
you don't like coconut.
I like it, but it takes like 30 minutes to chew up a mouthful of it. I mean, it just keeps going like the.
Yeah, have you ever tried sugar cane? Like actual sugar cane?
Yes.
You mean chew on it or?
Yeah. It's like that. I mean, you just keep chewing and it just.
Did Elvis have some kind of weird sandwich where he liked peanut butter on it?
Peanut butter and bananas, I think.
And mayonnaise, maybe?
Well, there's a debate about whether the mayonnaise was there.
Gotcha.
Wait, who was this?
Elvis.
The lady that cooked a lot for him used to talk about. Now, did he fry them? Were they fried?
Seems right.
Yeah. So that's not totally bizarre. That's not like cottage cheese and mustard.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get hate mail for this, but I don't like bananas. I like the flavor of banana, but I don't like bananas.
I don't think people send hate mail for that.
They might.
I mean, it's possible, but
I really do like animals, though. Anything that had a face tastes good.
Do you remember the bananas on the slimy bananas on the Nutter Butters that had been smoked?
Yes, I do.
And bacon. When there were bacon wrapped around
bacon,
it?
Yeah. Yep.
That was unusual.
That was very unusual.
That was different. Yeah.
I'd like to say welcome again to you new subscribers. You might be tuning in for the first time.
This might be the last time they're undoing their subscription after this.
Okay, so these things aren't really odd, but they're just things I like that everybody doesn't eat. I like a potato chip sandwich. It's just
it adds some crunch to it. It's good.
It's just light bread, put potato chips in there and smash it down and eat it.
You don't put anything else in there?
Nope, just potato chips. And I also like a step up from that. If you live in the city, you would go to this. A fried potato sandwich. Fried potatoes with a little onion in there, just in between two pieces of bread. It's good.
What happens if you put that on potato bread?
Is
that just too much
still
potato?
A sandwich, but
that's too much potato at that point, isn't it?
No, you can't have too much potato. Okay, so this is not really odd, but it's something I like, and I tell people about it, and they always kind of look at me weird, but. You know the canned smoked oysters you get?
Oh, yeah.
Like in the sardine cans? I like a can of those and saltine crackers and a glass of milk. That's just...
Okay.
Just by...
The milk added in there is a little different, but I like saltine and the...
and the smoked oysters?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
I think partly there's a tie-in between this week and next week coming. I think part of that is because growing up in Arkansas, kind of in the wilderness, if you're going out for a day, it's usually a day, and you take some food with you.
Potted meats.
You take the canned stuff, and so at that time I didn't really use the oysters at that time. I hadn't really discovered oysters, but we did potted meat.
You weren't highfalutin back then.
No, I hadn't been to the city yet. But anyway, so yeah, I like those. But there's a tie-in coming because as a young man, I spelunked a lot.
Okay.
We dug arrowheads in caves, but we also spelunked. There was a crew of us that went as far as we could go back in mountains. And when you do that, you also take food for two reasons. One, it's going to take you a lot of time to go in there, and then you got to come back out. And the next reason is you might not come out, so you want to, eat as you're dying. But anyway.
Okay, this is a random side note, but
yeah.
Do you remember a few years ago when those boys got trapped in the monsoon in the cave and the cave flooded?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good documentary on, I think it was Nat Geo or something. They did a documentary on that.
Pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Would not have, from a Western mindset, and we're not in that environment, but it's just kind of, we don't know monsoon rains, and then we don't understand how powerful the rivers are inside of the cave that prevented them from being able to. That's a pretty cool documentary. Huh.
One thing I know we never thought about or talked about when I was a kid was when we were way back miles into a cave, is none of us had really thought about what would happen if it rained a lot outside.
Yeah.
Nowadays I would, but on next week's Mike the Baptist.
Meat, so.
Pardon? Yeah, we had meat. Next week, what I'd like to talk about. This will be the same crew here next week, HD and Jason and myself, and we'll talk about adventurous things we've done.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So I've already gave you a preview of some of mine, but we'll talk about that next week. That's the front porch. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about some stuff we found in the Bible. Hope you stick with us. Are you tired of blending in with the crowd? Do you want to make a statement that says, I love baptisms and fashion? Then visit MikeTheBaptist.com today and order an MTB t-shirt or hoodie just in time for spring. MTB gear isn't just a t-shirt, it's a movement, literally. You'll be moving through life this spring and summer with a new confidence, a new style, and the occasional confused look from strangers. Mike the Baptist shirts, hoodies, and onesies come in all sizes. Yes, even baby-sized, because who says baby can't preach? MTB gear will give you the confidence to stand out in a crowd or a baptismal pool in colors as bold as your beliefs and sizes as big as your faith. What are you waiting for? Stand out. Be bold. Order online now at MikeTheBaptist.com/merchandise. Get your holy swag on now at MikeTheBaptist.com/merchandise. Not responsible for extreme amounts of attention or spontaneous moments of self-confidence. Hey, we're back. That's the buzzer. On Mike the Baptist, we have a buzzer. And the purpose of that buzzer is what, HD?
If somebody gets too churchy,
yes,
then you're going to reach over and push that button.
We're going to do that. And Jason, what is the reason that we would do such a thing?
You like pushing buttons?
Well, other than that.
We want people to be able to understand it and not miss the gospel because we are covering it up with fancy words.
The whole concept from day one of Mike the Baptist has been try to talk real.
Yeah.
And because it's easy in churchy circles to talk churchy, and then you get so lost in the churchy talk sometimes it's like you wonder if you're even remembering how to talk normal, because there's all these little phrases, and you guys have to use phrases because it's your profession. I understand, but I also know you guys outside of the church and you talk real. So that's what Mike the Baptist is about. And
so if I say something like blessed in the Lord and highly favored,
I'm going to buzz you.
Get buzzed on Mike the Baptist.
It's not disrespectful, so just keep that in mind. It's just we're just trying to bring it back down to my level. HD, Jason, why don't you guys tell us what we're talking about this week?
Jason's in the power seat.
All right.
Well, there's this, as we said earlier, there's this age-old story. Man, we could get ourselves in trouble in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that humankind has kind of always gotten itself in trouble is you end up being with people you don't need to be with. People you have no business getting in bed with, right? And the Bible it's a story about real people. It's very applicable. I mean, it's very situational. These are all things that people always go through. And one of those stories is the story of David and Bathsheba. And so you got this guy. He's the power broker, man. He's the guy that's in charge of everything. His name is King David, and he has these group of people, his closest military confidants, his bodyguards, and there's a group of them. And then he ends up sleeping with one of his closest bodyguards' wives, and he ends up, to cover up his own sin, an unplanned pregnancy. He covers that up by making sure that the guy whose wife he slept with, makes sure that that guy dies in battle. And then where we're going to pick this story up is where he kind of gets confronted with his sin. And it's just really crazy. You know, David, he did this and he thought, nobody's going to know. Nobody's the wiser. And so he slept with this girl. The only people that knew were him and the girl and the people that brought her over. And they didn't even necessarily know that they had done anything. But, you know, there's a thing that you can't keep hidden for very long. And it was pregnancy, because after a while that starts showing. And the sin can only be hidden so long. But David still could have been off the hook, because you don't know who the father is. But to hide that sin, what David did is he had a guy put him at the front lines and made sure that he got killed in battle. And, you know, that just kind of makes you wonder. A lot of times we do stuff and we think that we've hidden it from other people pretty well. But sin has a way of kind of coming to the forefront and being revealed over time. And I don't know. We don't necessarily need to revel in our past sins, but I'd say that's probably true in my life. There are a lot of times where I thought I had something hidden, and it gets revealed. And we're all nice people, so sometimes our hidden sin doesn't necessarily look too bad to other people. But, you know, just God has a way of bringing stuff like that up to the front.
You know, one of the things that kind of captures my attention is that the whole chapter here in 2 Samuel chapter 11 starts off by saying, in a time when kings go out to war, David stayed home. He was not where he was supposed to be, doing what he was supposed to be doing. And while, you know, it's not bad to train up leaders and send them out to do, you know, delegation, you know, he wasn't where he needed to be. And he finds himself out walking around on his rooftop, and he looks down and there's Bathsheba on her rooftop. Of course, the king's roof's a little higher than everybody else's, and she's taking a bath. They didn't have indoor plumbing like we do, so she would have taken a bath on her roof, supposedly where nobody else could see her, but David saw her, and starts running down this path of sin, how sin, you know, starts in our mind and ends up taking over us, obviously. But one of the things that's maybe applicable to us today is that David walked out on his rooftop and was just kind of idle, walking around looking. How many times do we take our phones and just idly flip through Facebook or Instagram or any of those things? You know, and I would say that's an area where not just men, but men and women need to be careful, because you might see an image that you didn't really want to see or go ask to see. David didn't go outside going, hey, wonder where there's some naked women. He just walked outside looking around his campus, and that's what he saw. And then that began to build something in his mind. So, you know, maybe that's something, you know, some of our listeners can just go, I need to be careful as I'm just idly, you know, I see it in my own household, and especially in the younger generations. So you've heard the old phrase, idle hands is the devil's workshop.
Yep.
That was definitely at play in David's life.
Interesting.
And, you know, obviously, you know, it's very relevant to where we are today. Pornography is a hugely problematic thing. But before pornography even became an issue, or sexual sin became an issue with David, is the issue that you're talking about. You know, work is something that God gave us before sin entered the world. Work is not a bad thing. And when you start getting to the point where you're just trying to find ways to get out of work, trying to find ways to just not do anything, that's when you're setting yourself up for failure. It may not be that, you know, taking a break is bad. It may not be that getting a little rest is bad. But if you start getting too much of that on your hands, you start finding yourself doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And that's kind of where David began to have the issue that popped up with Bathsheba.
I'll say too that always been in creative fields all my life. There are times where you don't have like a project happening or something, so you have all this time, and people like myself wind up working a lot that people never see, like in the night, and you just don't see it. So have you got a job? No, you don't have a job, do you? Yeah, I do, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
But you do. You wind up with this incredible amount of time, and it's easy to get used to that. I'm speaking from experience. You can get when I was in my 30s, I got really used to taking about a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. And that was not a good habit because I could have been using that time for something else. But just saying that, and talking about even for a little bit, David did that.
Yeah.
And created this big story.
And it pretty much ruined his dynasty. And, the cool thing about David is he will repent. He will be sorrowful for what he has done, and God will still utilize him. But the consequences are still there. And that's the thing that, we want to guard each other and say, be careful with your time, be careful how you spend your time, because you can be forgiven, but the consequences may continue to follow you. Matter of fact, I think it's in 2 Kings, it kind of is one verse that just kind of recaptures David's life, and it says, David did everything the Lord commanded him all of his life except for Bathsheba.
In the matter of Bathsheba
and Uriah.
Yeah.
And that was what kind of, to be honest, if you throw King David out there, there's probably 2 stories about, Goliath and Bathsheba.
Mm-hmm.
And, how tragic is it that God gives us these opportunities to do great things for him and with him, and then we get idle and we start, going down a path, and it leads us to a place where we didn't want to be. It's one of those old sayings that sin costs you more than you wanted to pay, takes you places you never wanted to go, and causes you to stay longer than you wanted to stay. But again, the cool part about David, he did at least come back. What is it? Is it Psalm 51 or 52? 51 probably, where he says, return unto me the joy of your salvation. He realized where his salvation came from. He realized that God held that, which is a great thing to know. I'm glad God's in charge of my salvation and not me, because I can find idle times to do stupid things too.
I think it's great too, though, that there are stories like his that are in the Bible.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a lot harder to relate to all that in any kind of a meaningful way if none of those guys had ever slipped up anywhere and done anything kind of out of sorts. With the understanding that at the end of the road, those are the 2 things that came back up in his story, you know. So
if the only picture we ever had in Scripture was of people that lived perfect lives, never messed up, like that'd be a hopeless book to read. Mm-hmm. It really would be, because I'm never going to be able to achieve that. Mm-hmm. But thank goodness that the Bible is real, and it talks about people's real mistakes. Mm-hmm. And man, it gives me hope. Because I know that when I mess up, God's on the other end of that. If I just admit it and then give it to him and just walk away from the stuff that I was doing wrong, God forgives.
You know what irks me?
What's that?
I'm glad you asked, because
you were going to say it anyway?
Well, no, it irks me that the culture doesn't understand Christians. The culture has this stereotype of a Christian, and therefore gives the Christian a bad rap, when all along a true, real Christian understands they're pretty bad human beings.
Yeah.
But the culture tries to point at all of them because they don't know. They do not know Christians. They don't understand them. A real one, they might have an understanding of a surface Christian, but the real Christian, any of them that I know, understands right off the bat they are not perfect. They'll never be perfect, and they don't even pretend to be that.
Yeah.
So where does that come from in the culture? Why are Christians battered that way and talked about that way? But it makes no sense to me, and it really irks me.
Well, I think again that's just another way that the evil in this world gets us to want to make fun of that which we don't understand. Because you're exactly right. There's not a true Christian that doesn't understand that there but by the grace of God go I. We don't somehow feel like we're better than everybody else. We're just forgiven. And there's a book I'm reading right now called Share Jesus Without Fear, and the author talks about him. And he was a great businessman, but he also got tied in with the mafia and all this stuff. And the couple that invited him to their house and began to kind of talk to him about this thing called following Jesus, he said the lady started to tell her story and said she served him tea. And he's like, oh, great, I get to hear your story now because I know you've served me and I know you're going to tell me your story. And he said, I kept expecting this to be, one time I lied, and one time I stole a piece of candy from my brother, and then I repented of my sins. And he said, but she began to talk about that she was a mistress to some oil baron in a foreign country and how messed up her life was. And he says, I'm sitting there looking at this very dignified lady going, what? You used to be that kind of person? And it's just a reminder to us. I mean, if you meet somebody that calls themselves a Christian, if they're a true Christian, here's what they know. Their sin is awful, and they're probably as messed up or more messed up than you. They've just given that to God.
Mm-hmm. There's another element. Man, that's super insightful. But there's another element I think that we need to discuss as well is God's standard is up here.
Yep.
And we live here, and the world recognizes the gap between those two things. Yep. And we try to live up here on God's standard, and we're never able to get there. And they see that, and they see us trying, and they recognize that there's a gap in between the way that we live, act, think, feel, all that stuff, and what God actually expects from us. And they say, why would I even bother with that? But golly, I just know for myself that I'm healthier, I'm happier, I'm more whole when I am trying to live the way that God wants me to. And I do know that when I do mess up, man, I can go to God and I can have that weight taken off of me. And I'll never reach the gap between the way He expects me to live and the way I actually live. But man, just headed that direction removes a lot of hurts, a lot of heartache, a lot of anguish and anxiety that did not need to be there.
It's the trying that sells it, I think. The preaching is necessary, but I think the trying is what people really see. People will dodge preachers that don't want to hear that. I'm just saying they'll just dodge. Yeah. They'll just dodge preachers. But if you're just living your life and you're trying, and somebody sees that, I think that's what people respond to. Seems like.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of this story in our discussion?
I think the biggest thing that we take out of this story is that David called a man after God's own heart. God picked him. He said, that's my king. He's going to do what I want him to do. God knew he was going to make these mistakes, and yet God said, that's my guy right there. It's a good reminder that we're all weak, and we're all frail, and that we're all going to fail at some parts of life. Like Jason's talking about, our performance never matches up with the position that God has for us. But the difference in those two things is that forgiveness and that what Christ has done for us. And, again, I would just encourage our listeners, if you haven't done that before, give Him a chance to have control of your life. It will make all the difference in the world. It's still going to be hard. It's still going to be hard. Even preachers deal with temptations, and we fail, and we have heartaches in our life. But just like Jason said, I know in my life when I'm following God, it is so much happier. It's so much easier. Even in difficulties, it's so much easier than when I try to do it my way.
Same verse you referenced earlier in Psalm 51:12, where it says, experiencing the joy of the salvation. It also references, give me a willing heart.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this and Christianity is new to you, the first thing you need to do is go to God to have Him change you. And that's the only way that you'll actually get saved, is He's got to come in and He's got to take out that old, nasty, dirty heart, and He's got to put a willing one in there. But I promise you, it's the best thing that you'll ever do is when you give your heart over to Him and He puts in there, in place of your old, dirty, nasty, sinful heart, He puts a willing heart in there. And I'll just tell you, there's a guy who recently got I don't know if he got saved. He's not 100% sure, but he got rebaptized recently.
Well, we're 100% sure he is saved.
We're 100% sure that he's saved
Right.
now, but we don't, there's a question of he was doing the church thing when he was younger.
Right,
And then there's this moment in time now where he is 100% following God. And so we're not sure at what point he got saved, but we know that he's saved now. But he knows that when he gave his heart over to God and stopped trying to do his own thing, just stuff started getting better. His relationship with his kids got better. His relationship with his wife got better. I mean, they were fighting. That got better. His work relationship got better. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be easy on this side of eternity, but I promise you that it is better when you follow God.
I think I'm going to have to work on it a little bit because I'm having video issues. My video is dragging, so maybe that's a signal.
Jason needs to stop talking.
No. It's a signal I need to work on myself a little bit more. Anyway, good talk. Let's take a break. Come back and play Inny or Outty.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Exciting to have Jason back for Inny or Outty because you never know what's coming out of that head.
Right.
From all those whiskers and that massive beard there. If you're only listening, you need to watch so you can see that beard Jason's got there. Which is an issue at times doing something like this because if he gets excited, he leans forward.
Gets his beard in his microphone.
Yeah, gets everything all tangled up there. But
Nice.
not really. That's never happened, but it's just... Anyway, today on Inny or Outty, Jason is in the power seat once and then HT. And I'm just a
Are you
victim.
going to explain Inny or Outty to our new listeners?
No, there's no need to explain something so simple as asking if something's in the Bible or not, and is that an Inny or Outty.
Gotcha.
There's absolutely no reason to
I
explain
just didn't
that.
want them to be confused.
New or not. Anyway, HT, why don't you start us out?
I'm going to give you a simple one.
Good, because I'm simple.
Inny or Outty? Caterpillar.
Our is a
Caterpillar.
Is that in the Bible?
Yeah, caterpillar.
That is simple. I told you earlier that I have something, but it may be too simple, but
You're welcome.
thank you. Caterpillar. Jason, my gut had an immediate reaction to that.
It normally does.
Move up to the mic there a little bit so we can hear your voice.
I'm thinking that it's probably in there in reference to like changing into a butterfly.
Yes.
I
didn't think about
could be
that.
wrong, but that's my initial inclination is either that, with an agrarian-based society, like a farming society and stuff like that,
yeah.
they probably would be worried about, things that could come in and destroy the crops. But that was typically grasshoppers or locusts or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know that there's anywhere in there that it talks about the caterpillar eating plants, but I'm thinking there may be a reference in there to a caterpillar changing into a butterfly, but I'm not sure if they use the word caterpillar.
I was just sitting here thinking that I never recall a reverent moment in a sermon and hearing fuzzy caterpillar or anything like that. But
The word metamorphosis is in the Bible.
Yeah, for sure, that's in there.
I didn't know that. You could have got me on that one.
Sorry. We'll try that
You
next
ruined
week
an
'cause
Inny
you
or
won't
Outty right there.
remember.
No, that's true too. Caterpillar. So you're saying, but would maybe they didn't call it a caterpillar because that's a really silly word.
It is.
That's a pretty silly word.
Yeah.
How would that sound in the Hebrew or the Greek?
It sounded like they were hawking a loogie.
Yeah, you got to sound like you're hawking loogie to speak.
That's for sure.
Anyway, caterpillar. My mind's hung up on how silly a word that is now, so it's going to take me a minute to come to sort of intelligent. I think it's silly enough to be in there. Is that what you were saying? Kind of.
I'm leaning towards it being in there.
Well, she didn't say because it's silly, but
Yeah. I'm leaning towards it being in there, but I cannot think of any particular time, but I can see how that analogy would be used in Scripture. So I'm leaning towards it being in there.
because of
that.
agrarian reasons. What'd you say?
Agrarian.
What?
Agrarian.
Agrarian. Because of agrarian reasons.
Yeah.
We think it's an Inny, don't we?
I'm leaning towards it being an Inny. I'm probably gonna ruin my batting average now. Not that it's been that great lately. Yeah.
It seems like about 50-50 is how this usually goes for a person.
Yeah.
HC?
It is about 50-50 because it's either Inny or Outty.
Oh, that's a good point. We think it's an Inny. Is that right?
right.
I'm leaning towards Inny.
It's an Inny.
Let me. So.
I'm going to act real confident here for just a second.
Yeah.
I have to. So there are actually two places. Isaiah 33:4 is gathered as the caterpillar gathers.
Wow.
And Amos 4:9, and the caterpillar was devouring your many somethings.
Your mini what?
You want me to go to it and tell you?
No, that's
is
all
that,
right.
Is that really going to...
Like children or
That's like a sci-fi horror movie. Caterpillar. I mean, we see the Attack of the Ants or something like that, but the caterpillar. There we go.
That's why it's important to read the scriptures around.
Sometimes can be translated as locust, but the word caterpillar is,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Good job, Lynn.
Jason?
Yeah. We got it.
Test us out. It's your turn.
Over our dead bodies.
Over my dead body.
First of all, speaking of gut, my gut says that's just ridiculous.
It is. Yep.
Unless.
Is it over our dead body, though? I mean.
Right, unless they were like talking about somebody, when they sprinkled smelly stuff on you and wrapped you up in something. Didn't they when you died back
spices
then?
on
Well,
the
that was
dead body.
mummification, or
No, they just sprinkled spices.
Yeah, I think they
that's
just.
what they went back to the tomb to do with Jesus. They put the spices on his body and wrapped
like
it.
75 pounds. I mean, it's a lot. It's
What?
not. Yeah, it was a lot.
Of stuff. Well, it would take a lot of stuff.
It would take a lot of stuff.
For a guy that probably weighed 150 pounds.
Yeah,
half
but
his body weight.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but
It's kind of
what was the original question?
over our dead body.
Over our dead bodies.
Over our dead bodies. It's interesting that he said "our" instead of "over my dead body."
Mm-hmm.
He said "over our dead bodies."
Does that make a difference? I don't know.
Could.
Seems like it could.
I don't know. Maybe.
You know how Riccardi does.
Yes. Oh,
I mean, I guess we do use the vernacular of over my dead body.
Yes.
More frequently. Yeah.
yeah. I guess if you were taking a stand as a family.
Okay.
Or a group.
We've never vernaculared in our family.
But you have mixed mustard and cottage cheese.
I have done that. Yes.
That still sounds super weird. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. I'm gonna have to maybe try it
Yeah.
just so I know.
Maybe try it with smoked bologna. Might be a little better. Over our dead bodies.
I don't think so. I think it's too bizarre. What do you think?
It is kind of bizarre, which is why I think it's probably in there. But
Yes.
gosh,
It's a fun one, right?
It is a fun one. I don't see any reason they would have used that phrase in biblical times.
unless somebody came up and said, we have to circumcise the whole city
Over my
our
dead bodies.
Well, yeah. Speaking of taking a stand.
Yeah.
That's when you. Yeah.
I'm filtering a lot of comments right
Vernaculars.
now.
Let's vernacularize. So we're saying out.
What's a vernacular?
I don't know.
I hear that a lot.
He said it a lot.
It's something to do with English, right?
Well, it's your version of the English language, basically.
Slang.
Oh, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's an Outty.
Let's say out. Okay.
We think it's an Outty, Jason.
It is an Inny.
It is.
In the Lexham English Bible translation.
In the what?
Lexham English Bible translation.
Who was Lexham?
It's the one that comes with Logos Bible app. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like Al Lexham.
In Nehemiah 9:37, the word is usually translated like corpse or body or something like that, but it does say over our dead bodies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I know, it's like fun. It's the only one that I know of that's in there. Yeah.
did we win the first one or lose it?
We won.
So it's one of each here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good one. That was
Yeah.
good, Jason.
That's fun.
I was expecting something great.
I brought you down. I'm sorry, Michael.
No, it's okay. No, I'm capable of that by myself. But it's just nice to have company. doing it once in a while. Okay, fun, Inny or Outty. Take a break, come back, tell you goodbye.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Goodbye. Actually, it just struck me as funny. Hey, thanks for being with us. Good talk about old David and his issues. Kind of turns out he was human. And but still got used, as they say. Wait a minute, that's kind of churchy, isn't it? To be used. Anyway, thanks for being with us. Playing Inny or Outty, Front Porch. Next week on the Front Porch, we're going to talk about adventurous things. These three
That'll be fun.
semi-intelligent humans might have done when they were young or
And you might
old.
question that when you hear some of the stuff we've done.
Oh yeah, I'm going to question it already because I'm anticipating good things. And we'll have another Bible study next week. We'll talk about something we found in the Bible, and might not be like your grandma's Bible study, but that's the intent, right? H.D. Jones,
Hey, good to be here.
Jason Riccardi,
What's up?
with several C's, I's, and A's in the spelling of
And
that,
ours.
and R's too. And I'm Mike the Baptist, and we're glad you joined us, and hope you come back next week. In the meantime, in the spirit of the true spirit of Mike the Baptist podcast program, whatever you want to call it, we're all just Christians.
Trying not to.
See? All right, and we're doing a pretty good job.
So far, so good.
Vernacular
This
is not a cuss
episode,
word.
we
is
did
it?
a really good job.
We did do a good job. See you next time.
Mike the Baptist.